Hello everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge. Well, today we're going to do some talking and some seeing, so be prepared. Joining me today is my good friend and co-host, the one and only Scott on this show, the real Scott. It is Leslie Price. She's living in the UK right now, but she is Scottish. Never make that mistake. I made that mistake once and I'm still alive, but I'm good.
Scotland is still in the UK.
Yeah, well, that's true. She's in England right now.
Yes.
There, sorry. See, I almost made a mistake again. Anyway, Leslie, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Really good, and it's lovely to be back.
Great.
After a couple of weeks in Australia.
Oh, that's right. We had to talk about that later. All right, so we also have a great guest on today, but first, let's run our quick intro. And we are back, and joining us today, we have Shaunak Roy. He is an MIT graduate and the president and founder of Yellowdig, which is not a geology company, as I first thought. It is, well, I guess the best I could come to it was it is a social knowledge management system, and then some. It's a really cool product, and we interviewed Shaunak about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, for a different show, and we thought, you're on the wrong show. You should be on this show. So we brought him back. He's a great person to get to know. And Shaunak, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, and great to meet you, Rick and Leslie. Looking forward for the conversation.
Well, good to have you on. And Shaunak, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what company you created.
Sure. So quickly about myself, I grew up in India, did my undergrad in IIT Bombay, and then like many other IITians, kind of came to the US for higher studies. That's when I went to MIT. Spent a few years there studying engineering, essentially systems engineering, and also kind of did other work around operations research. Then moved into the corporate world. I was actually kind of moved from engineering to business for over 10 years. And maybe at some point I really got bored with it. And I kind of thought that, I always wanted to start a company, so why not do it? I was in my kind of mid-30s at that point. So decided to leave my job and started Yellowdig. And Yellowdig is kind of combining my passion in technology and education. I don't have a formal background in education other than going to these universities, but I kind of thought that maybe I can figure it out and learn through it. So it's a social learning platform that we created for the modern era, because as you know, learning is changing very rapidly, where students are learning from almost anywhere, right? I mean, you don't have to sit in a classroom to learn. You can go online, kind of sign up for an online course, or a huge portion of these learners, like especially people who are going to undergrads, are taking courses online. So I thought that we should create something which makes it easy for learners to connect with one another, share interesting content with one another from the real world, and that's what Yellowdig is. It's a social learning platform that works with a variety of other platforms and creates that environment where people can learn from each other, essentially.
Now, how did you come up with the name Yellowdig?
I get this question a lot. So I gave the name, to be honest, I gave the name before even, we kind of knew what the product is going to be. So the color yellow, every color has a color psychology, and the color yellow stands for cheerfulness and fun. So at that time, I kind of thought that doesn't matter what we do in education, I want to create something which is kind of fun, as opposed to all that complex products that people just don't like to use. So that was the idea behind Yellow, and Dig is about collective learning, right? So one person can learn only so much, but if you kind of group people together collectively, you can dig into your collective knowledge and learn from one another, and that's so much more exciting. So that's kind of the whole background about Yellowdig.
That's good. That's good.
It's interesting what you're saying about social and collaborative learning, because I 100% agree with you. I think peer-to-peer learning is very, very important. And I'm probably going to jump in here with both feet, but there's an awful lot on the news at the moment about fake news.
Mm-hmm.
And very often, fake news needs somebody within the community to actually say, do you know what, guys? This is a load of rubbish. And do you think that the young people today know there's so much out there on Google and whatever other, Yahoo, Bing, whatever other search engine you choose to use? There's so much out there that is just so much choice, but so much rubbish. So can the young people filter for themselves?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think what you just said is social or connectivity has its positives and negatives, right? And we are right now seeing the negative side of actually connecting, creating this broad networks. And we think very hard about it because it's a hard problem to solve, right? Because if you're talking, like think about Facebook, and there's so much of conversation about politics, right? I mean, that's kind of one area where we are living in a very interesting world now, and people are saying all sorts of things. And if somebody, even if you want to contribute in a very kind of an authentic way, there is a huge risk of being taken out of context. And actually creating a negative connotation, even if your intentions are positive, which is, I believe, as for most of us, the intentions always start with positivity, but things kind of get out of control, and that's what is happening in these big social networks, which was supposed to be a platform, but somehow now it has become this unmanaged global community where you can get lost and kind of really learn the wrong things. So that's kind of the big concern that you're highlighting.
And then you have a little bit of the issue of in the internet, in tweets and social media, somebody tweets out something idiotic, and maybe they're followed by 1,000 people. They don't even read it, and they retweet it or they repost. So you're right in that respect, Leslie. You don't have any filters. People aren't listening and reading. They're just going, "Oh, I like that person. I'll forward it." They don't even know what they just forwarded. It could say something like, "Let's kill 400 people," and they go, "Yeah, that's a good idea."
And I think the danger then is, particularly when you involve it with learning, that do then young people then pick up on this and think, oh, because I've read it somewhere, it must be true.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to filter out propaganda from reality. That's the problem, especially when propaganda sounds as good as reality. And then, it gets a little odd. Now, again, if we look at what Shaunak has done with his product, it's a little more related to problem solving and sharing solutions. So it's a little bit of a different approach. I would say in his case, the people on his network are social, but they're social with a purpose, a different purpose than just kind of random acts of either ignorance, idiocy, or occasionally brightness, brilliance. It just depends. But Shaunak, tell us a little bit about how your network works, per se.
Sure, no, absolutely. So basically what we do, Leslie, I mean, what you pointed out is there's a huge amount of risk. There's a huge amount of value in connecting people, but there is a lot of risk associated. And we are trying to separate that. So how do we do that? We try to create, walled gardens where, imagine if you're taking a course with 50 other learners, or 100, or maybe thousands in a massive online course from all around the world, and you're talking about religion. Let's say, for example, Harvard is using our platform to run courses on religion and many other subjects where they're using Yellowdig to connect learners around the world. The beauty is that once you have a protection, which is you have a common purpose and you are all committed to learn a subject, you're more likely to actually engage in much more constructive discussion.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the social manifests in the most positive way, where we see people are so much forward in terms of kind of creating that supportive or constructive discussion, or sometimes criticism as well, but in a very constructive way. And that's what we want to build. So what we have done with Yellowdig is we have taken all the power of social media, which people are so much used to, the ease of use, which is so much kind of, much more like one click you can access content and you see the content that is most relevant to you, but have kind of created this walled gardens where these institutions can now protect it and integrate with, all the environments where learning is happening, so that people come in with a very specific purpose and they get to know each other, they build a relationship, they share ideas, and they can move on and live their life. So that's what we are trying to do with Yellowdig, and our vision is to create that. So at a high level, if you think about Facebook, the real vision of Facebook, at least when they started, was to connect their friends and family, where you can kind of connect with one another. Right now, it has kind of, I would say, lost its purpose a little bit and have gone into a very different direction. Our vision is to create the academic learning communities, which cannot happen in Facebook for all the reasons we have discussed. We cannot happen in Twitter or LinkedIn for all those reasons. But it can happen if it's designed well and it is under the control of these learning institutions. So we work with, let's say, all these institutions to make our product available, and they design the experience for their students and help these kind of all these social interactions happen.
So can I ask another question? Do those responsible for the education, so like the lecturers or whoever, do they also get involved in the discussion?
Absolutely, they do.
Oh, so excellent.
What happens for most of our use cases, let's say you're teaching a course, so the instructor will launch Yellowdig within the course platform, let's say a learning management system, and the students will join the platform just by clicking a link, because we are integrated within the learning management systems that are used by most universities or colleges or schools. So as a result, what happens is that there is kind of a shared responsibility where the instructor is there who's kind of guiding the discussion, could start with a prompt, like let's say a question or maybe an article or a blog, and then the students will bring in content. In a lot of cases, what we have seen is that the instructors actually take a back seat where they just kind of be involved, but they don't kind of influence the community, and they see how the discussions emerge. And we've seen success in both sides, frankly.
So that means that if people are going totally down the wrong track, then it also potentially can help the instructors, the facilitators, to maybe the next time they're doing a class on the topic, they can say, oh, stuff like this came up in the chat, and maybe we need to explore this a bit further.
Absolutely. So it's as you said, it's a very organic way of driving a conversation. So instructors can view what's happening, what naturally is happening, and they can also see, and we have kind of also analytics available for the instructors to see what sort of topics are actually getting discussed, and more importantly, what is not getting discussed. Like, let's say you are teaching a course on marketing, and if everybody's talking about the old school, the brick and mortar marketing, but nobody's talking about digital, it is a good signal for the instructor to bring in that kind of topic. Maybe it is lacking good quality content to engage the students on that topic. So it's a very organic way of engaging the students as well as the instructor to a direction that you would want to create, which is very hard to do, let's say, in a Facebook scenario.
Now, Shaunak, did you want to show a little bit of a demo of the product?
I would love to, yeah.
Great.
I'd love to see it.
Would the screen come up?
Oops. Okay, you're not yet. We don't see it yet. Or if you have two monitors, it may be on the other monitor.
It did a minute ago.
It came and it went out, yeah.
Yeah. Gotta love technology.
Show the website?
Hmm?
The website here?
No, he's going to show.
There we go. I can see it now.
Well, that's just us showing the website, I think, right?
Oh.
Okay, let's go back to him, because he needs to show his screen. He's on Skype, right?
Yeah.
So right now, it's still not sharing your screen.
Okay.
You have one monitor or two?
Just like last time we had a few kind of pictures in the background. Do you still have that?
We do, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'll have to pull them up. Just a second.
Okay, hold on. We're going to pull them up.
Okay, that's fine. So, as you are pulling it up, we just a little bit of background about Yellowdig. So it's a software as a service platform that we kind of license to universities. We have about 50 institutions, mostly in the US, who are using our platform for online courses, blended courses, and also residential courses. By the way, it just came up.
Okay.
This is,
We got it.
essentially, thank you for putting it up. This is essentially what Yellowdig looks like. What it shows is that we have a concept of a board. So imagine if you're teaching a course on, marketing or finance or any other topic, you can have one or multiple boards for that course. And how do you decide that is depending on the topic of discussion. Like some courses are very fluid, so you can have just one board where all the discussions and ideas kind of happen together, or you can decide to have multiple boards per topic. So if you're covering multiple topics, you will have multiple boards. So that's at a high level. And you can see just in the drop down there, if you are following multiple boards, so basically the way you join the network is through your learning management system. So what we do is that we license the product to the university and they decide to roll it out in all their courses or a portion of their courses. And the way the students and the instructor will join is just by clicking a button in the learning management system. So it's a very seamless way of joining. There's no separate sign up or anything like that. And once you join, it automatically figures out which courses or which board you should have access to. So there's no additional work by the students to kind of figure that out because we are well integrated with the environments that the university set up. And this is where you see is that, we were talking about Facebook. So we follow some of the design considerations of all these social networks, which are very easy and very simple to use. So you see where somebody posted a comment. This is a community of learners. So one of the big problems in learning sometimes is people just don't know each other, and especially imagine online or global programs. They really want to know each other before they start engaging in a conversation. So people can create their profiles, update their picture, write about their background, their education, so that as people get into these conversations, they can kind of expand their network within the courses or the communities that they're following. On the right side, you see this leaderboard. So we do some gamification. You see their points, where you see number 2, 3, 5. So students earn points based on their contribution. And the reason we do that is because we want to create easy incentives. So if you share an article and write about that article, you get points for that. Or if you get a badge, let's say somebody posted something insightful and the instructor actually can decide to give them a badge for their contribution. It's a nice way to, kind of recognizing that contribution, and they also earn points for that. And how many points you will earn for what activities, this is what the instructors decide. So this is where we differ from social media. Like, if you're in social media, you have no control, right? Whichever platform, whatever they want to show, they just have it. But we are trying to kind of provide and give that, customization or incentive to the instructors to design this for the students. So this is where this screen is showing how the points are calculated. For example, creating a pin with a minimum of 40 words, you earn 20 points. Creating a comment with a minimum of 20 words, you earn 15 points. If you get upvoted, which is a sign of quality by your peers, or if you get on a badge by the instructor, you earn points for that. So all of these are incentives that you've created to drive the right type of engagement. And how many points you have to earn for what kind of contribution, this is what the instructor decides. So there's a whole lot of customization options in the platform itself. You can go to the next slide. This is kind of showing a similar kind of feed, but on the right side, if you see, there are topics, tags. We also show which one is trending. Like, for example, if you can create topics to kind of categorize content into different smaller buckets, right? So, in a marketing course, for example, you will have digital marketing, social media marketing, marketing content generation. So these could be topics that the instructor can decide. And when the students are commenting or posting, they select the topic that they're talking about so that at the end, people can filter by those topics and see conversations in smaller buckets. Similar like tags, like, in Twitter, you have, trending tags, you can create tags, and so that people can use the same tags to keep, also going to group contents in the same way, but the tagging is based on the student. So it's a very much emerging way of kind of categorizing content. So these are all the different kinds of things that you would expect in social media. So, but we have kind of taken the concept and applied it in an academic setting. Next slide. This is some of the analytics, that I was talking about some time back, which is this is showing is that the level of engagement around different topics. So the topics can be created by the instructor, or the topics can be created dynamically, as you were discussing. And this chart shows the instructor which topics are actually gaining traction. So if you see the one which is at the top with 100, that topic is gaining the most amount of traction in this community, but the ones which are, at the lower end, they are not being discussed enough. So this kind of gives an indication what is popular, what is not, what is gaining traction, what's not, and how to kind of redesign the course if they want to do it to kind of really drive in the right direction. Next one. This is essentially a way to interact in a one-on-one or one-to-many basis. So imagine a course scenario where people are having discussion in a feed where they're sharing content and articles, but sometimes you may have a question or a feedback for one individual. You don't have to do it in the whole feed, so you can just kind of message them and have a private conversation one-on-one. This kind of functionality is available, let's say in many other social media, like Facebook, for example, but the huge advantage of this over any other public social media is the data piece, which is essentially, as an institution, we're gathering data in so many ways, which are very academic. You don't have private conversations there. These are all academic conversations. And you can start mining or analyzing this data to really understand what the students are, where are the challenges the students are having, or who is having challenge. So all of that data becomes very powerful through these type of, different types of interactions. Next slide. Oh, I think we're done. So that's a very quick overview of Yellowdig. I know we have limited time, but happy to give you more details if you're interested.
I've got another question. So are the students, are the learners, are they also able to upload their own resources into your platform? So like photographs or articles or something they've written themselves, and they say, oh, I could just do a little bit of feedback on this?
Yep, absolutely. Look, actually, that is the primary use case on our platform. We were just looking at some data. 95% of all the posts and comments are driven by the learners. Only 5% comes from the instructor, and they're sharing all sorts of content like articles, blogs, videos, audio files. So we allow all sorts of content, and that is kind of one of the primary benefits of using us for sharing content.
Yeah, I can see that, because what I'm doing is something called the Learn Appeal Capsule. So we're taking learning offline, and I took an awful lot of advice from sort of experts in the field. And one of the big things that came across was that it's important, while we want people to learn and we want people to take on board what is coming out within the course, we also, what is very important is you allow people to share their own experiences, and that might be in a Word document or a PDF or an article or something else that they've looked at. In our case, it would be like, oh, they're doing a course on looking after chickens. Oh, and they put a photograph up and say, oh, my chickens are losing all their feathers. What do I do? It's much, much simpler, and it's offline. But it's great that because I think peer-to-peer learning, where it's not just chat, where you can actually share resources, is incredibly important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to add on to that point, what we're also seeing is that the average age of learners were used to be like really 20, 22, early learners in their bachelor's, but now, especially with online, you have all these adult learners who are coming in and taking courses from all sorts of places, and they have a lot more to share. So, somebody in their 30s or 40s, and we have people even in their 70s and 80s who have retired, and they're taking these MOOCs. And part of the reason they are doing this is not just to learn, but also to have discussions with like-minded people. And kind of share resources. So I think this age factor is also a big contributor to kind of really enabling that as a way of learning. And we are seeing that in our data as well.
That's great. Well, Shaunak, it's as always a pleasure to see you. And how can people get a hold of you to learn more about Yellowdig?
So, for us, it's very easy. So you just go to yellowdig.com. The color yellow, dig.com, as you see at the bottom. And you will see all ways of contacting us. And if you just want to reach out to me, I'm very visible. Just go and Google my name. I'll find my LinkedIn, my Twitter. Hit me up, and I'd love to have a conversation.
Okay, great. That sounds wonderful. And thank you again for coming on.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I thought Leslie would like this subject too. And it's interesting because you're right. It's adding a component that's just not in a lot of different systems or anything. And people don't really like being individual silos where nobody else is around them. They can't share. So this is good.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, thanks a lot. Thanks for inviting me. Great to meet you, Leslie and Rick.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We appreciate
nice to meet you too.
And we appreciate you coming on. And definitely, if you're interested, go to the yellowdig.site, take a look around, and I'm sure you'll like what you see. Anyway, thank you again, Shaunak. We appreciate you coming on. And for all you folks in the chat room or watching live, thanks for being there. And we will see you next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, Leslie.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.